Mr. Olds is online.
Here.
We know Mr. Boland is going to be late, and I believe Ms. Zelatel is online as well.
Here.
Yep. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us. So we do have a quorum. Aaron, can you help us out with the public involvement announcement, please?
Of course, AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are first presented by staff or consultant, after which the committee is given an opportunity to discuss the business item. Then the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. A couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an approval of the agenda? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Moved by Mr. Colhase. Do I hear a seconded by Zelatel? Do we have any changes?
Mr. Chair, is there any way that we can maybe take up one other item so that Mr. Volan can be here for the action items on the MTP and the TIP amendment?
There are no.
Yeah, we don't have any action items for either the TIP amendment nor the MTP today.
See the full agenda in front of me. It's like not scrolled. If you could scroll down on the screen. Well, we have, yeah, the resolutions here on the STIP amendment. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess we can just go ahead. Never mind. We'll hopefully you'll get there fast.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good. Any other changes or any changes from the other members? I have one that I think I'd like to move on, and it's not a slight on you, Aaron, at all, but action item 5E, that subject took almost an hour at the TAC. Large majority of that was reading through a rebuttal to a letter. Both the letter and the rebuttal are in the memo. The letter wasn't read aloud at the TAC meeting, but the rebuttal was. Kind of the same issue I have with the Fish Creek conversation when we had a kind of a one-sided discussion on a legal interpretation. Long story short, I guess, is that I'm uncomfortable with that a little bit. But
try again.
My motion is to for that item 5E is to read through the action requested and the TAC action taken, but not read through the background.
So point of order, Mr. Chair, I think we're on the approval of the agenda. So that would just be on the actual item when we get to it, unless you're suggesting we remove it.
Okay, yeah, we can do it then. Yeah, I actually wasn't sure when to read it, but if we can do it there, if it's more appropriate to do it then, I'm happy to do it then. Do we think it's more appropriate to do it during the?
It's whatever you guys want, but yeah, typically for the agenda, it's just if we want to add or remove an item.
Okay.
Not or edit an item, I guess, if you want to add something else to it or not. If you want to limit discussion from staff on there, we would do that under the item itself.
Okay, sounds good. We'll take care of it there. Do I hear any objections to approving the agenda? I'm not hearing any. The agenda is approved. Agenda item number 4. We have the minutes from the February 20th, 2025 meeting for approval. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from the February 20th, 2025 meeting.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Olds.
Second.
Moved by second and thirded. Any changes or discussion to the minutes? And I just have one. It's not a correction to the minutes, so I'm not proposing any changes, but I misspoke last month when I said that some of the actions we took at MVP were in violation of the Open Meetings Act. I understand that MVP is a nonprofit, has a different structure than we have, and they are subject to the Open Meetings Act. So just that statement, no need to change the minutes at all. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the February 20th, 2025 minutes are approved. On to action item 5A, resolution 2023-001, a goodbye for Craig Lyon. Have a presentation, Aaron?
Yes, so we have a quick resolution here for Craig Lyon. Craig is in the audience with us, so he's here for everybody to say hello to and laugh at and say thank you. So as you know, Craig worked for many years with AMATS and the municipality of Anchorage. So as is tradition with us, typically what we've done recently is anyone 10 years or more of service, we provide a resolution for them. And then staff also purchases a hydro flask engraved with their service to AMATS. The hydro flask is not ready. That is still being done, so it will be done here soon. I know that's what Craig was here for. I apologize for that. But so once that's done, we'll get it to Craig. But the resolution is before you today, basically honoring Craig and his service, all the work that he has done over the years. On the bicycle plan, the Eagle River Central Business District, the non-motorized plan, freight mobility study, 5 consecutive metropolitan transportation plans to allocate funding for 20 plus years of service, securing $250,000 in private funding from ConocoPhillips to meet the required local match for the Potter Marsh Trailhead and access improvements, funding program for the University Lake connection, collaboration to move the Coastal Trail and Ship Creek Trail connection forward, which we're very excited for. Served on the board of directors for the Nationwide Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations for 10 years, including 2 terms as board president, the first Alaskan to hold that position. So it's very exciting. Craig collaborated with transportation agencies across the country to work with Congress to secure funding for transportation improvements while ensuring fair treatment for all users, including transit riders, pedestrians, cyclists, drivers. So now therefore be resolved that the policy committee recognizes and honors Craig Lyon, and be it further resolved that the policy committee thanks Craig Lyon for his years of service to AMATS, and be it further resolved that the AMATS policy committee wishes Craig Lyon the best in his next endeavors. And I just want to add, thank you, Craig, for everything. It's been an honor. And we will hopefully continue to interact as time goes on. Thank you, sir. So the resolution is before you to review. The Technical Advisory Committee recommended approval of the resolution with only one minor change, which we added in to comment on the Coastal Trail to Ship Creek Trail connection. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee? Mr. Foley.
I'd like to make a comment. Nowhere near as articulate as Mr. Young and Ellen, but when I became the director of project management engineering, one of my jobs was to sit on the TAC, and Mr. Lyon at the time was kind enough to come in and explain to me what AMATS was, how it worked, and what I needed to look at and worry about and think about, and I very much appreciated that. And then looking at this resolution, I was aware of some of these things, but looking at the resolution, some of the things I think that the citizens of Anchorage have really benefited from are both the leadership that Craig provided and securing funding and working at the national level, but then just some of the very specific projects, the Chester and Campbell Creek connectors, the Coastal Trail to Ship Creek connection. Those are they're the fruit of the labors of many, but Craig played a significant role in those. So I think that a legacy that you will leave, that you have left behind, Craig, is something that all citizens will benefit from and enjoy for a long time. So I've truly enjoyed working with you in your many capacities in my various jobs, and wish you well as well.
Mr. Coles, any comments, questions online from our policy board members, policy committee members? I'm not hearing any, but I guess I'll just second what Mr. Colhayes said. It's a pretty impressive resume there, Mr. Lyon, and we're glad that you're not leaving the industry. I know you're still working with us, so yeah. Is there any, maybe we could start with Mr. Lyon. Do you have anything that you'd like to say?
I guess I would just say it's really surreal. I want to just go, I'm actually in the room. It's just awkward to hear. But I guess that's what happens when you get old and you've been around for a long time. All I can say is I've enjoyed the time here, being a born and raised Alaskan, getting to do this kind of job for the city that I grew up in and my kids are growing up in is just amazing. It has been a lot of fun. I've gotten to work with some incredibly smart and capable people, not the least of the ones who are here at the table right now. And I've enjoyed it. And I'm proud of the work that we've done together to make Anchorage a really a nice place to be in. So I really absolutely appreciate this resolution. It is humbling and awkward. But thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Greg. Appreciate you. Any other comments from the public? I'm not seeing any. What is the will of the committee?
I'll move to approve.
Yes, that would be the ask.
Move to approve the resolution.
Moved by Mr. Colday, seconded by Mr. Olds. Do I hear any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Real quick, Chair, there was a comment that we missed. It was from Ben White, just thanking Craig for everything. So I just want to make sure that was noted.
On to action item 5B, the draft PPP for public release. And Aaron, I bet you have a presentation.
I do not actually.
Oh.
It is Christine Schutte today.
Christine.
Yeah, thank you. Just a real quick presentation on this plan. It's before you today just to release to the public for a 45-day public review. And the TAC recommended its approval. And I just wanted to go over a few of the differences of the plan. The last plan was adopted in 2017. So this plan is kind of a complete rewrite with the plain, like trying to make the entire thing written in plain language. So it's easy to understand who AMATS is and what AMATS does. We're proposing that it's more of a living document. So it's not, it's updated more on a regular basis. In this plan proposes some goals and some targets for those goals so that maybe on every other year, that update would just be to reassess those and report on what we're doing so far, what's working and what could be improved on. The document's laid out in 4 simple chapters. This is AMATS, just everything about the MPO and the federal requirements for that, those goals that I just mentioned, and then the committees and staff for AMATS. The main products of AMATS, we manage a transportation plan, 20-year plan. If you're familiar with AMATS, you will know that as the MTP. We're proposing that we, in the vein of plain language, we call that the transportation plan. If you're familiar with the TIP, being the 4-year program, we're proposing that we typically call that the funding program. And then the UPWP, which is the 2-year plan that outlines what work staff will be doing, we're proposing calling that just the work program. The next chapter will be how to get involved. So typical palette of options for public involvement. Each planning document will have its own public participation plan, but this is kind of the overarching guidelines for that process. And then the appendices, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the Title VI plan that was approved in December of last year has a few red lines. It'll go out for public review with those red lines so that we can talk through that process of federal changes. So those proposed goals I mentioned, just kind of simple 3 overarching goals: inform and educate, engage more people, and evaluate the process. They'll be outlined in utilizing performance-based planning so that each of those goals will have a measurable target so that we can see if what we want to do is working and if anything needs to change. So having said that, when you look at the plan, each of these goals will have a table like this where the goal is at the top and then objectives, measures, and targets you can find. So for informing and educating, it's about making things accessible and clear expectations of what you will receive from AMATS. Engaging more public is just getting more people engaged in our process. In some ways, we are proposing to do that. And then evaluating the process is, training, different things for our website where we can look at what's working and what's not. And then again, revising this plan and the Title VI plan with updated data on a more regular basis. In the plan, just it's something that I didn't mention, it's kind of an idea that was carried out in the original plan, but there are some at-a-glance guides. So if you're just looking for things quick, in the back, you can find calendars and maps for typical locations and calendars for committee meetings, approval timelines for those 3 main documents, and then different formats that we reach out to the public. So when you look at the appendices and you see the Title VI plan, when I rewrote that also in plain language, I wrote out and identified all of the executive orders that went along with that plan. All but one have since been rescinded. So those are what you'll see redlined. One of the executive orders that deals with limited English proficiency was rescinded, but then it kicked it back to the state. So it did not say that we cannot translate documents. It just said that that guidance needs to come from the state. So as far as we know now, the executive orders have changed, but no laws have changed. So that's all that has been changed in that plan, and really all that has been changed in our PPP. We still have our 10 transportation planning factors under these focus areas. That is still our marching orders from federal government. And that's it. So thank you.
You mentioned whether we see it.
What's the executive orders that are being taken out of the Title VI plan will stay in red line form so the public can see what has changed from December until now.
Thank you, Christine. Are there any questions for the shooting from the or comments from the policy committee? And Dr. Bolland has joined us. I'm going to let the record show that he joined us at 1:18. Welcome.
Thank you.
Not hearing any comments or questions from the committee. Any comments from the public? Hearing any of those either. What is the will of the committee? You'd like me to read the action?
Action is to release it for a 45-day public comment period.
I will move to release the AMATS public participation plan and the red line Title VI plan for a 45-day public comment review.
Second.
By Mr. Colhase, seconded by Dr. Boland. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none. Let's release it for the 45-day public comment period. We're on to Act 95C, which is the AMATS Safety Targets 2025. Aaron?
That'll be me.
All right.
Okay, so this item, just so you are reminded, we have to set safety targets every year as part of our federal performance management efforts. DOT as well, or the state as well, needs to set safety targets every year. We do them in conjunction with the state and the MPO. So this year for 2025, we're going to do things a little bit different. We typically have 2 options. We can support the state in their targets or set our own targets. Historically, AMATS has supported the state DOT in their targets, but because we recently finished our safety plan as the MPO, and the policy committee has mentioned a few times that they would like to start seeing targets specific for our area, staff felt that this was a good time to go ahead and bring forward recommendation to the policy committee for performance targets that we set as an MPO. Now, we're still supporting the state in their efforts, but we're just focusing our targets on our area instead of the statewide numbers. So I just wanted to walk through the numbers really quickly so you can kind of see where we're at right now. Well, can you go ahead and scroll down to the next page to show the 2 tables? Okay, so before you are 2 tables, so you can see the difference between them. The bottom table is the targets that DOT has adopted as 2025, and then the top targets are the AMATS safety targets. Just as a reminder, the DOT are statewide targets and ours are just for our area. So I reached out and worked with the MOA traffic group to gather the data for the serious injuries, fatalities, then the rates, and then the non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities. So for the fatalities, those are people that are typically in a vehicle. You can see the statewide number that the target that DOT has is 62 or less, whereas our target is 16 or less, because our numbers are actually about 21 is the estimated rolling average that we have for it. So you can see the state has a much bigger area of focus for individuals that are in vehicles for fatalities than necessarily within our area. Same with the serious injuries. The statewide number is 276 and the AMATS's number is 65. And then the non-motorized is where things are a little different. You see that the statewide target is 48 or less and AMATS is 33 or less. So what this kind of shows you here on these targets is that our area as AMATS, the big noticed number is the non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities. We make up roughly 68% of the statewide numbers for those individuals. So it's a pretty significant area of focus for us, I think, based on the data that we see here. So these targets that you see before you, can you go to the next tab, please, or the next PDF over for the data? There we go. Thank you. It's a little hard to see if you want to zoom in some. So we provided you the background data so you can see where this all comes from. We got all the crash information from the Muni Traffic Department. We did our 5-year rolling average, that second column area. And then based on that, we made the recommendation to reduce down from those rolling average numbers 5 serious injuries, fatalities, and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Now, I want to say it doesn't seem like 5 is that much of a number, but that is a lot of work that has to go into that. It is a lot of work to reduce serious injuries and fatalities in our community. So I don't want people to think that this is staff's way at slighting anything or saying, oh, we'll make it easy. No, this is going to be a lot of work for us to do. And we have to do it together as partners, both the municipality of Anchorage and DOT. And I wanted to bring something forward to the committee members that was trying to be a little more aspirational, to say we really need to focus on safety in our community, more so on the non-motorized users, but overall safety in general. So these safety targets are before you. We did meet with DOT staff, Pam Golden, James Starzik was there. We had MOA Traffic, Kim Carpenter there, and I think Zach Hartman with MOA Traffic. And we talked through these numbers. Are they realistic for us to try? And everybody was in agreement that these numbers that before you are a good starting point for us. Since this is our first year setting our own targets, we don't really know what it's going to look like, and we're going to need some more data out of it. So I think it's a good place to start, and we'll revisit these again in 2026, where you can see how we did on the 25 targets. So they're before you for review. The Technical Advisory Committee recommended approval of the targets as you see in the memo before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Meg has her hand up.
Meg, Mrs. Zelatel, please.
Thank you. So I appreciate these targets. I wouldn't say they're aspirational. I'd say they're ambitious. Couple of questions. Are these targets, or do we have similar types of targets in the Vision Zero plan? And if so, are they the same or different, particularly as it goes with non-motorized? And then I heard, and I want to make sure I understand, that the fatality number is fatalities of people in cars. And are we otherwise tracking fatalities that happen outside of being in a vehicle? I know it's a combined number, I guess, with serious incident. Is there any reason we can't break that apart and set separate goals? Thank you.
You have an answer for that?
I'm not sure on the Vision Zero targets. I would have to look into that a little more, and maybe see if Zach Hartman can send that information to you all. In terms of the combined numbers, the reason they're combined is because that's how it is federally. So we have to follow the federal requirements for our targets. I guess we could set our own individual targets, but we would still have to report on or set a target for the combined number as well, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. So maybe when we just report out where we're at, we could look at both numbers broken out just for our own depth of knowledge. And the reason I raised the Vision Zero plan, or really any other local plan, is I hope we're being consistent in our targeting, or at least not less ambitious than a plan really focused on pedestrian safety, and really, has that whole plan is around reducing fatalities and these serious incidents. So I think that would be good to know, or a good piece as we move forward, maybe in the following years. Thanks to the team for the work.
Thank you, Ms. Zeldell. Any the other committee members' questions or comments? I'm not seeing, hearing any questions from the public. Not seeing or hearing any. Again, the action is recommended approval of the 2025 AMATS safety targets as presented in the memo. Do I have a motion? So moved. Moved by Dr. Boland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hayes. Pardon me. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Now on to action item 5D, which is the Alaska Railroad TAM, which is, what's TAM stand for?
Transit Asset Management.
Transit Asset Management. Thank you. Transit Asset Management Targets for 2025. We have a presentation here.
Yes, it'll be me again. So as you know, this is another piece of our performance measures that we have to update on a regular basis. These are the transit asset management targets for the Alaska Railroad. So these targets are set by the Alaska Railroad regarding rolling stock, their equipment, their facilities, and their infrastructure. As an MPO, we are required to adopt targets for them. Historically, what AMATS has done is we have accepted the targets that have been provided to us from the Alaska Railroad. They're the ones who provide the funding for it. They manage and maintain all of the equipment and infrastructure, and they do all the work. How we help them with these targets is by programming projects into the TIP. So when they send us the money and say, this goes to this maintenance, or this goes to this facility or infrastructure, we program it in the TIP to help them. So before you are the 2025 targets as recommended by, or as approved by the Alaska Railroad Corporation, and they're before you for review, and the Technical Advisory Committee and staff are recommending to adopt the 2025 Alaska Railroad Transit Asset Management Targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Not hearing any comments from the public. Hearing any of those either. The will of the committee, or the action is AMATS staff and Technical Advisory Committee recommend the Policy Committee review and adopt the 2025 Alaska Railroad Transit Asset Management Targets.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Colby's seconded by, give it to Dr. Boland. Any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, that motion is approved. On to action item 5E. And I don't know, I feel like I need procedural help there. It seems like, still seems like we should have taken care of this with the agenda, but we didn't. So what's the policy for changing our presentation? Motion and a vote?
I don't know.
As far as
Limiting,
you want it
yeah.
presented?
Yeah.
You just request it. I mean, there's no motion if you want it.
Okay. If you request it, that's
discussed,
cool.
yeah, something.
Okay,
And then if a committee member wants to hear more, they can ask
okay.
for more. So, okay. Sorry, did you want to make that?
Please,
request?
yeah. If we can cover just the action requested and the TAC action taken. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so before you is item 5E, the DOT operating agreement and boundary letter response. So action requested, well, I'll start with the action taken and then action requested in order. So the TAC reviewed this information and they have the following recommendation. Move to recommend to the policy committee to send the letter from DOT regarding the operating agreement and boundary information out for independent legal review, to table the discussion on the operating agreement until the results are received from the independent legal review, and add a discussion on a future agenda about revisiting the boundaries of the MPO to include the entire MOA. And that is also the action requested. There's one thing that is not in this memo that I want to make sure you're aware of. The FAST Policy Committee meeting met yesterday. They tabled their item until we took action on this because they want to see what we do. So I know that's a little more than you asked, Chair, but I just want to make sure you had that info. So the action requested is by staff and the TAC to review the motion, the recommendation from the Technical Advisory Committee and to approve that motion. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
Can we have questions first or?
Or do we move and then discuss?
Yeah, you need to do questions of the committee, then the public, and then you can do motion.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Dr. Paul.
Thank you. So who selects the independent reviewer? And do we have any information on who that might be?
So I actually was able to get a name from AMPO, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. They have a legal firm that they use. So they sent me a name and I've reached out and the individual is available to review should there be a request of such. And so that would be the recommendation. It's from Venerable and Associates. They work closely with AMPO. They've worked on MPO and transportation planning related tasks for a very long time. The individual we would do also works with USDOT, so has very good familiarity with the entire process on the federal side and on the MPO side.
Oh,
Please.
thank you. Aaron, I appreciate the detail in this memo that you put together. I think I wish we did have a little more time to go through some of the comments. Did our municipal attorney's office review any of this already or take a look at some of the concerns?
I sent it to them. They have a preliminary draft, but at this point, they haven't finalized anything to provide to us at this point.
Okay, and then one more follow-up if I could.
Please.
The funding for the independent legal review, what's the process for that? Is that something that has to come before the assembly or is it coming out of AMATS budget or how does that work?
So AMATS has the budget to be able to pay for it. It will come out of our UPWP. We would have to do it through the municipal process, so it would go through that, and we would have to figure all that out.
Okay. Is it something that would have to like go out to bid? Or can we do like a sole source? I guess it sounds like you put some research into finding someone who has expertise.
Yeah, we would have to figure that out. I would have to communicate with the purchasing department to figure out how much is expected. I think it's about 15 to 20,000 for a legal review of this level. So, you know, it's a little higher, but it's not too bad. And so I would have to do some more research. I didn't really want to do too much and spend a lot of time without getting some kind of support from you all or no, don't do it.
Okay, thanks.
Meg has her hand up.
Mrs. Eltel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if we get a legal review, an independent legal review, and we get I presume, a legal review by TOT, and we get a municipal legal review, what's the plan to reconcile them? Like, I guess that's my question here. Are we going, like, as a policy committee, we have varying interests on the committee. We can, if you ask 3 lawyers, you will get 4 opinions. And so what do we do when we have those opinions? Do we bring it back to the policy committee and try to work it out and decide who's right? Like, I guess I just want to know what's next after, because I think that needs to kind of be understood. So we make sure we're getting, so one, we're getting apples to apples legal opinions in terms of answering the same question. And 2, we kind of know what we're going to do with it if we're going to spend the money to get a legal opinion.
Yes, if you.
Yeah, please.
So I think the plan originally for this was to send out just the DOT letter, not AMATS's memo that I wrote, to a third-party legal review for them to review it, get that done, bring it back to the policy committee along with anybody else who wants to review it, and then bring it up for the policy committee to decide what to do. That could be a work session, that could be an executive session. It's kind of up to what you guys want to do on it to try and hash out these concerns that have been raised and how to move forward on there. This is not a staff this is not staff deciding what to do. This is really just trying to get as much information as possible to provide it to you all so you can decide how you want to move forward as the policy committee.
Thank you. And the follow-up, I appreciate that. I guess I think the policy committee's first question is what exactly do we want to send out for legal review? And are we all going to agree that that is what's going to be reviewed by all parties, you know, if they have their other counsel, like, I guess it feels a little artificially constrained to ask a lawyer to review something very narrowly tailored without giving them access to all information, or who is this lawyer going to be available? Like, who will this lawyer be able to talk to? Most lawyers aren't going to just look at a document and say, here's my opinion. They might have questions. Like, how is all of that going to work?
I think that's part of what I have to work out with the lawyer. I'm not sure. All I know is I was able to provide them the letter and they said they could assist with reviewing the letter and providing legal review on the information that was provided in there, and it could bring it back to the committees. If there is additional questions, I wonder if there's an opportunity to have the lawyer talk to staff. I'm not really sure who drafted the letter on DOT side. I know it was from the commissioner, but I don't know if somebody drafted it for him or if he did it. So I don't know who they would be able to talk to. I'm assuming DOT has people that they would be able to talk to, and then the Muni would have people that that lawyer could talk to as well.
Yeah, the DOT would certainly make Department of Law available for those conversations.
Thank you. Last follow-up, which is, as we move into and we have a motion, I just want us to think about, are we contemplating independent legal review here to simply be I think we need to make sure our motion is wide enough so that Aaron can get purchasing authorization for that additional part. So, you know, legal briefing or whatever it might be back to the policy committee. I don't want to put Aaron in the hot seat of having to interpret a legal document before you all, but really making sure we've budgeted enough that we can procure whichever attorney's time to come and talk with us, provide us advice, and leave open that opportunity for an executive session. Thank you.
You, any other comments or questions? Dr. Bollinger?
Yeah, thank you. So the motion or the action suggested, the action requested is to send a letter from DOT&PF for independent legal review, and the table the discussion, and schedule a subsequent discussion. I guess I'm curious about the rationale to not send not only DOT's letter, which they're making their assertions, but also staff's comments here in this memo. I mean, why wouldn't we send both?
I was originally just intending, because that was me using my technical expertise. It's not a legal opinion. I don't know. It's not you guys as the policy committee speaking on the item. So I didn't make that recommendation because it was just for your information. It was really for the TAC and PC's information. You had the letter from DOT to review. You had the memo from staff that brought up some concerns, but it's really the letter itself from the commissioner that we need a legal review on, because it's the one that's making assertions on certain things for the MPO.
So I think my concern is along the lines of kind of where members Alatel is headed to, though, is what information are they going to be reviewing? What are we actually submitting to them for review? And who decides? And yeah, so it's just curious, because I think this is, this response that goes into some detail that I think might be helpful for them to look at. I don't know.
Public document at this point, anyway.
Yes. Yeah. If you wanted, you could include it. It has been posted on the agendas, so it is available to the public and anybody else who would like it as well.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments from the committee?
I guess a question is, how time critical this is with respect to, I guess, ultimately the approval of any boundary changes. If this takes a month or 2 months or 3 months, at what point do things start stacking up on the back end, Mr. Young and Ellen?
No, it needs to be done by December of 2026 for the boundary. The operating agreement, there is no time constraint attached to it. Aside from what's been outlined in the letter, that boundary and the operating agreement go hand in hand in DOT's view there. But from the federal side of things, they've told us there is no requirement for us to update the operating agreement as part of the boundary change. So that would be up to the policy committee, what you would all like to do based on the letter from DOT. So right now, there's no time constraint. So if it takes 3 to 4 months to do this review, we wouldn't be running into a time constraint at this moment.
Other than if the governor wouldn't approve the boundary until we have our operating agreement reviewed, when does the boundary have to be finalized?
December of 2026.
Okay.
And we've asked FHWA for a response on what impacts to AMATS is there if we don't get our boundary approved on time, because staff has not been able to find anything in federal regs that says what those impacts are or what those punishments are. And we haven't heard back on that yet. So we don't actually know what the repercussions are if we don't get our boundary approved on time, other than we have to start our MTP soon and we need to know which boundary to use for our MTP.
Any other questions, comments from the committee?
I guess a procedural question, Chair. So right now we're asking questions that it hasn't been moved yet. Will there be discussion after it's moved, or should we talk through all the thoughts now?
You can have discussion. This is just generic discussion where you can ask questions. After a motion is done, before you do final votes on it, you can go more in depth to talk with the other committee members about making amendments to the motion or other things like that if you would like.
Any other comments, questions? I don't know. I had the question that I had, or maybe the comment that I had, was that the policy committee is required by our agreement to review we've talked about this before, review the agreement on an annual basis. I don't know that happens regularly or not, but is this an opportunity to broaden that scope a little bit and, I don't know, have some sort of collaborative meeting and take a look at the agreement together, come up with questions that we need to answer. I think these questions they're important questions to answer so we can move forward. I think there's other more minor things in the agreement that need cleaning up. I have a list of them. I'm not going to go through them right now, but does it have value to maybe establish more if we have any other questions that need those legal interpretations or?
Yeah, I mean, if there are other legal things you would like reviewed in addition to this letter, that's part of the operating agreement, that would probably be good to figure out what those are, if you're interested. I don't think there's a problem with looking at the agreement overall to see if there are changes. I know we do it on a regular basis as staff, and we bring that forward to the committee members as needed for anything to change. I think this one is just such a big item that's what we as staff are really focusing on, is this letter itself with the changes it was recommending, because it's tied up the boundary approval at this point.
Any other comments?
I guess I do have one more comment, Mr. Chair. Not with respect to the facts of the difference of opinion between AMAT staff and the commissioner's letter, but with respect to how we move forward with acquiring legal services, legal review. In my experience in the non-legal world, when we put a contract out, you have a list of scope of work. So, and I don't know if we could come up with a scope of work today, but it would be nice, I think, along the lines of your thinking, Mr. Chair, and yours, Mr. Young and Ellen, to have a list of a scope of work as to what we're asking a legal counsel to look at and comment on. I think handing them the letter and saying review this may not get us what we want. We could be more broad, we could be more specific, but I think providing some scope of work, and I'm not sure exactly how we craft that scope of work. I don't think we can do it sitting here. We could ask staff to craft it and bring it back to us at the next meeting or at a special meeting if that were helpful. If we're going to go to this effort of acquiring legal services, working through the purchasing process, it'd be nice to have some specificity in what we're contracting for.
Any other questions or comments? I'm not hearing any. So I'm going to turn it over to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? Not seeing or hearing any. Do I have a motion?
No, no, you have to, somebody has to motion now.
Right. I guess I'm asking the committee with a.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not sure.
So I
Move
guess
to postpone, so move to postpone until the next AMATS meeting.
In the, I guess we can discuss it, right?
I'll second for the
second.
purposes of
Oh,
discussion.
thank you. Moved by,
Thank you, Mr. Boland.
seconded by Mr. Boland. So discussion,
If I may speak to it briefly.
please. Yeah.
I think Mr. Colhase makes a great point. I think we need to be really clear on the questions we're asking and what we're expecting out of an independent legal analysis. I think taking the time to do that and possibly also figuring out if we can have some kind of work session to even see where those points of contention are, or what we are needing help with, might be really, time well spent so that we aren't, so that we're just defined in the issue we're trying to answer and where we do need that additional expertise. And that we're really clear when we ask for that expertise, exactly like how we expect it to kind of come back to us. What is helpful for us? Will it be a legal opinion? Will it be a legal opinion and a legal briefing? And then how are we making sure we're having that intersection with our own legal counsel, whether it's the MOA attorney or DOT's Department of Law. So I think a little bit more planning. I think we definitely can pursue this path, but a little bit more planning will probably save us money in the long run and save us some, maybe some pain points in the future.
Do we have a timeline on the analysis from the city's attorney?
I am not sure.
Okay.
I will have to follow up and find out when that'll be available.
Are there any resources at AMPO that could help us take a look at our agreement? Tell us if there's problem spots or spots, not problem spots, but spots that we could improve on.
I'm not sure because each agreement is kind of specific to the MPO.
Yeah.
And so it's dependent upon how you guys want to handle it. Like, for example, our agreement includes things in there about the TIP amendments and MTP amendments. Most operating agreements don't include that in there because those are handled by bylaws or policies and procedures to be put into place because they're easier to adjust when they're in a policy and procedure and doesn't really tie our hand as much. So our agreement is unique in some aspects. I can ask, obviously, AMPO if they have anybody who'd be willing to, and that could be, I'm not sure. I would have to ask more info on that.
I feel like it's an opportunity, it's if we put something on the calendar, we have this in front of us, we can take a look at the whole agreement, see if we need to retool it. I don't know that it's not a bad agreement, but I would focus on process, if we can shorten our process. Although reviewing the agreement, we have a pretty, there's a lot of flexibility for admin mods that I don't know if we take advantage of that or not, but.
We're not often able to because amendment level things sneak up all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any more discussion?
I do have I guess a question for the body, maybe some advice from Mr. Young and Ellen. So generally in support of members Alatel's motion, if we want to provide more specifics regarding a work session and regarding perhaps AMATS reaching out to AMPO and perhaps drafting a scope of work for our review at the next meeting, would that be an amendment to Member Zalatel's motion, or would that be a separate amendment? Would we move to postpone and then move to provide additional direction to staff, or are those combined in one motion? Procedurally, I'm not sure how to handle that.
Postponement usually supersedes, but you could postpone for those reasons. So, and have it come back.
I guess my fear is if we postpone without direction, I don't want to be here in a month asking the same questions. Mr. Young.
My recommendation would be that staff work on getting a work session put together as soon as possible within the time that we have, so we can start fleshing out that scope of work, because I don't really know what you all want to look at, and I don't want to make presumptions on certain things over other things. So I think maybe we can postpone and then direct staff to set up a work session at the next convenient time It is, just to let you know, a work session is something we have to post for the public. So we need at least a week's time to get that ready to go. And we have to find everybody's calendar and make sure you're all available. So it may not be next week, it may be the week after, something like that, but we can work immediately to get something going pretty quickly for you all. And I think bringing these questions you all have to that meeting would be really helpful, since the chair has already kind of mentioned, is there somebody at AMPO that can help us review the agreement? Between now and the work session, I'd be able to reach out and ask them. But a lot of these questions I may not know until we actually get the legal person on board and can speak with them a little bit more of what they can and can't do. Because I don't know what limits of what they're willing to do or not.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd offer a friendly amendment to Member Zalatel's motion. I would move to postpone to the meeting of April 4th and also direct or ask the AMATS staff to schedule a work session. I would suggest not later than April 4th in order to provide time for staff to do the initial research and for the body to conduct a good work session, and then to provide time for the AMATS staff to do whatever follow-up work might be needed before the next policy committee.
Procedure of terrible.
No. Sorry, I just want to be clear. Oh, Meg has her hand up. Sorry, Meg.
Ms. Elton. Go ahead, Ms. Elton.
Did Ms. Please get a second? Okay, I was gonna say, if we have that kind of deadline, then I think it's incumbent upon us to go back to our council, let them know that we have that deadline and we need to kind of get from them. And so that we can bring all of that to the table to the extent that they have any questions or any concerns about process as well. That was just the layer I wanted to add on. The more we can get consensus from the lawyers up front on at least how we're tackling the issue and how we're defining the issue, I think will be really important to making the process smooth on the other side. Thank you.
So point of information, Meg, did you want to change your motion to reflect what Mr. Colhase just said, or should we go through doing an amendment?
100%. That's great. Nope. Sounds great.
Okay, and I'll second agrees.
Sorry, I have a question. Can you clarify? So you would like to postpone to the next PC meeting or to?
Both. My interpretation of Member Zalatel's motion and my amendment would be to postpone action on this until the next policy committee meeting. Request AMATS to schedule a work session not later than April 4th. Request AMATS staff to do the preparatory work necessary to have us effectuate a productive work session.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to make sure April 4th was make sure we have our work session prior to or by April 4th at minimum.
That's just a suggestion.
Okay, yeah. I just was checking the calendar to make sure we had enough time to post everything, and we will.
I'm open to changing that date as well. I just picked midpoint between now and the next BC meeting.
The only comment I would have with that is April 4th may be too soon to help get to Member Zalatel's, where we get the lawyers to understand how we're tackling the issue and then get anything from them. So we may need.
I would revise my motion to change that date to April 11th.
I agree with that.
We have a motion.
Yeah. So Meg's motion and my second, but with everything that Mr. Colhase put in there.
Is anyone able to read that back?
Oh, yes.
Please,
Postpone
thank you.
action until the next PC meeting, directing staff to schedule a work session no later than April 11th. And make sure that we can get some information, talking through the items that you want to have included as part of this legal review. What will come back to you? How will it come back to you? Will it be just a legal opinion, or will it be a legal opinion in a briefing? And then how will MOA and DOT legal be involved? During that time that we're working on the work session, getting it ready, making sure that we can get the lawyers from both Muni and DOT to talk about what they would like to see as well, or to engage in the conversation. So we get all the information together on what we want to see as part of this independent legal review.
That's quite a motion. But it has been moved and seconded. So are there any objections to approving that motion? Not hearing any, so that motion is approved. I think I'm getting worse at Robert's rules.
Don't worry. Fine, sir.
Action item 5F is STIP amendment number 2 comments. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, I do. Real quick. So as you know, the STIP amendment number 2 is currently out for public comment. Today is the closure date of the public comments. So I wanted to get this to you all. Staff reviewed these STIP and there were some comments. I'd like to go through those comments. There are 4 of them, so I'll make them quick. The first comment is STIP amendment 2 wasn't coordinated with AMATS prior to being released. This was talked about at the policy committee meeting last time, so I felt it important that staff included into this memo so you all can have a discussion on it. What I also added in here was, there can be options for how to help engage with the MPO prior to it going out to the public. That can be things like an executive session or working with just staff. These are all kind of things that were talked about at the policy committee meeting. The technical advisory committee reviewed this, and they actually requested staff add an additional amount of information in there that we heard at the peer exchange. The peer DOTs and MPOs have a transparent collaborative process from the STIP from beginning to end, where MPO comments are received early in the process, and so the public is involved even as changes are being made. So it's just emphasizing the fact that as we've heard these peer exchange, it's important to have this good collaborative process. So the next item, there was no overall summary of detail for changes for the STIP, at least at the time of reviewing the STIP by staff. There is a STIP dashboard, which I'll talk about next, and there's a place for you to go in and see some of the changes, but it was really hard to find some other changes that were made. And a couple of examples were put here for you, that there were 10 new projects added as part of amendment number 2. When I went into the comparison Excel that you can download that shows STIP Amendment 1 versus STIP Amendment 2, it didn't clearly show the new projects. I couldn't find them in there. Additionally, it looks like, based on the dashboard that was posted, there's about $400 million additional dollars added as part of Amendment 2. There wasn't any explanation provided of where that came from and if the document is still fiscally constrained. So having a summary of changes, kind of like what we do with a memo that outlines where these things are coming from and what changes were made, would be helpful for us to at least be able to see. And this second question kind of goes with the first question, where if there had been coordination beforehand, we could have asked some of these questions and gotten the answers prior to the end of the comment period. Comment number 3, it's a compliment towards DOT. The dashboard information and comparison is a really good start. We really appreciate it. It's making it easier to find things. We did want to note here that when you want to filter areas by investment areas, you can't actually see for the NA, so non-applicable. It looks like there are 15 projects listed in there that are non-applicable. You can't search for those out of that filter to see what they are. So we're just recommending to add a filter for NA so you can find those projects. This next comment was brought up at the policy committee as well, that the map on the dashboard page does not show any of the projects within the AMATS area. It would be helpful to show those projects so people know that stuff is actually getting done in the AMATS area and it's not this big hole in there. We recognize that the STIP is showing its projects it's putting its funding towards, and then AMATS has the TIP that's putting money towards projects. So maybe there's a different color dot that shows them, or there are other ways to show it. So I think it'd be a pretty easy change that would be good for everybody. And I also want to say that the mapping system and the dashboard that's been used in the STIP for this version is something that we as AMATS staff are going to be looking at how we can incorporate something similar like it in TIP, in the new TIP, the eTIP that we're going to be developing in future years. It has a lot of really good information, and we're going to work with DOT and see how we can do that. So those are the 4 comments. The Technical Advisory Committee reviewed these comments, had a few minor changes which are added in there, and they recommended sending these comments forward to the STIP team. Thank you.
Aaron, are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, I guess, again, a procedural question. I was wondering if there was somebody from DOT who might maybe on the phone or in the room who might speak to the questions or the recommendations. And I'm not sure if that's the question to us now or after a motion's been made. And perhaps there's nobody available anyway.
I think we could ask, Ben, can you help us with those questions or answers? May not have anybody available. James wouldn't want to take a stab at on a STIP, guys.
What were the questions again?
I think it would be the 4 comments that are.
And if he hasn't had the opportunity to read them, I'm fine.
Okay.
That was just an opportunity for DOT to comment if needed. So.
Any other comments, questions? I just have one. I learned yesterday, I don't attend the quarterly MPO meetings that you have, but MVP's policy board meeting was yesterday. And I understand that at that quarterly meeting that the MPOs were asked to submit their comments informally to save the STIP team some effort from having to respond to duplicate comments. We don't have a lot of comments here. Transparency is important. I think that these are part of the public record now. Are there any of these comments that are critical to AMATS delivering our program? Or, I think at least 2 of them are complimentary. Is there anything critical there that we would preclude AMATS from submitting these informally rather than formally?
No, I think I was just going to send them, if you approved them, I was just going to send them to the email address that's there for the STIP comments. I guess the only one in my mind that would be wanting to ensure is the question number 2B, where the additional 400 million, is the STIP still fiscally constrained? I'm assuming so because it was put out, but that's a pretty important thing for us to know that could impact us in the future if it is not fiscally constrained. I'm not saying it's not, just if it is or not. Oh, Meg has her hand up.
Ms. Elko.
Thank you. This is to kind of respond to the chairman's question, which is, I think it's really important that these comments come to us as a policy committee to submit, because our TIP exists within, right? The STIP and the TIP are complementary, right? Projects that are in the STIP can be within our MPO. I think it's good to know what changes are coming in our community and how it works or doesn't work with the TIP. Like, I don't ever look at these as 2 divorced documents. I look at them as part of a larger strategy, particularly within Anchorage, along with our CIP. So I think it's really important that we think about them holistically, and that the policy committee is engaging with the STIP, and that AMATS staff is 100% engaging with the STIP, and bringing it back to us, because ultimately we have to make sure that the TIP is doing what's needed and that it works, that it all works. So I think it's important to have these. I would love to see as much coordination between the STIP and the TIP as possible. And not just our TIP, other MPOs as well, because I think we'll get a better result across the state and we'll be more efficient, hopefully, with our dollars. Thank you.
I think we're in agreement on that. Any other comments or questions? Please.
I'll have a comment. I think, I do think it also is important that anytime staff is speaking on sort of behalf of AMATS or the AMATS policy committee, that they are bringing these things forward to us. I think it's one thing for staff to ask questions and get information, but it's another thing for them to submit comments on the record. I think they should probably be vetted through. And I know that's something that we're trying to figure out too, is when does the policy committee, when can staff act in their own capacity, and when should things have to be approved by the policy committee? So I think it's just, if anything, I feel more comfortable protecting staff by saying, yes, the policy committee agrees with these being forwarded on. So I would if it were up to me, we would approve this via the policy committee before they go forward.
It is partially up to you.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Any other comments, questions from the committee? Not hearing any comments from the public. Not seeing any. What is the will of the committee?
I'll recommend we move to approve. Second.
And seconded. to approve, to forward those comments on to the STIP team. Do I hear any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, that motion is approved. I believe that's the last action item.
Yes, sir, it is.
We're on to agenda item number 6A.
Yes, sorry, just a second, I'm pulling it open. Okay, so this is just to give you a preview of what's to come for the next meeting. I did it at the TAC. I think it's a good thing. So let me know if you want to change or stop or whatever. I'll do whatever you need. So for the next meeting, of course, we have the discussion, the continuing discussion about the boundary and operating agreement changes of what we just talked about today. So we'll have that on the agenda. We also have the performance measures for the performance measures agreement update. So one of the things we have to do now is relook at that agreement between AMATS and the other MPOs and DOT on how we develop and adopt our performance measures. You know, who do we reach out to at DOT, or what groups do we reach out to? How do we engage? We send data back and forth. It's good to update it because MVP is now an MPO and they need to be added to the document. And it's good to refresh it every once in a while just to make sure we're all in alignment with what's going on. So that'll be coming before you as an action item in April. Informational items, we should have an update for the INL pavement project presentation. So they'll come give you a quick update on what's happening with that. One of the things that's being talked about there that I'll give you a preview on is potential lane drop in INL as part of that pavement project. So please be prepared for any questions you may have on that. Academy Vanguard Drive project update. Thank you. We will be getting a quick update on that. Fireweed Lane rehabilitation project will be coming in. And then we have more action items I was just reminded of. We have the MTP and TIP. How could I forget those? MTP and TIP amendments coming forward with our comments. And then we have the UPWP. So we are having to start the next update for our UPWP. This is our work program, what it'll look like for 26 and 27, what tasks we'll be doing, what efforts we'll be doing. Staff will be bringing that forward to the committee to release that for a public comment period for the narrative, and then to get the budget through the whole process and everything like there. So we will have an action-packed April meeting. So I apologize, but we have a lot going on. So we're just trying to keep it moving forward.
Should we preemptively move to extend that meeting?
So
I appreciate you adding this item to this agenda. Do I have any questions or comments from the committee? Not seeing or hearing any.
Ms. Zalatil this.
Ms. Zalatil, please.
Next meeting will be my last meeting with you all. So just FYI.
Miss you and I guess. Any others? No? Any comments or comments from the public? Not seeing any. And I guess we're moving on to the next agenda item. Are there any further project or plan updates?
No, they're not, sir. Thank you.
Great. Move on to agenda item number 7. Committee comments. Are there any comments that the committee would like to add today? Not hearing any. Agenda item number 8 is public comments. Do we have any comments from the public? Not seeing any. On to item number 9, adjournment.
To adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any objections to approving that motion?